All right, the last page of the test focused on the distributive property, which is still eluding a lot of you. It's at this point kind of meaningless, so I understand why it's not clicking. But as long as you can put in the rigor to just kind of going from one form of an expression to another and then back, and you eventually start seeing that pattern and it starts to become a lot clearer. And someday you're going to see this is a really powerful tool, and it's really exciting to be able to use freely, but you're not really there yet. So I apologize that we have to trudge through this right now. So let's look at this first one. The expression is 3 times the quantity of n plus 6. So basically you have some variable n plus 6 in a group, and you have 3 of those groups. So what's another way to write that? Well, the basic distributive property tell you if I have some unknown number plus 6 and I have 3 of those, then I would have 3 unknown numbers plus 3 times 6 is 18. And that looks like, using our arrows, 3 times n plus 6. If I were to draw arrows here, I'm going to go ahead and make my 3 pink as well, then that would become 3 times n plus 3 times 6. And for some of the tests, I think most of the tests, I allowed that to be the correct answer. If you're in advanced, I took a point off because this is not actually complete. The complete answer would be 3n plus 18. You have to finish it. For most of my normal classes, I considered this enough because it demonstrates that you know what the multiplication is. A lot of people would give me the answer 3n plus 6, which is, for example, this first one right here, 3n plus 6, and those are not the same. This is saying you have 3 n's plus 6. This is saying you have a group of n plus 6, and you have 3 of those groups, so you would have 3 n's, but you would also have 3 6's. So you have to make sure that you distribute it out like that. So your first one would be B. Now the other ones here is just an issue of if you can manipulate them to look like this. And so there's a couple ways to think about each one. Let's begin with C, which is 2n plus 2 plus n plus 4. And the key to these is to remember your like terms, which is if they have the same variable, they can be combined. If they don't have the same variable, they can't be combined. So our variable, or our terms with the n, are these ones right here. And our terms without the n, without any variable, are these ones right here. So we can combine the green ones, the ones with the n's, and the pink ones, the ones without n's, but we can't combine the green with the pink. So that would be 2n plus just one n right here. That would be 2n plus n is 3n. And then here we have 2 plus 4 is 6. So 3n plus 6 is exactly the same as A, which we know is not the right answer. Let's look at 4 times n plus 6 minus n plus 6 right here. Let me write that out here. So we have 4 times, actually let me do this in pink here, n plus 6 minus n plus 6. Now there's 2 ways to do this. One way is to do the distributive property twice and expand this out, because right now I can't combine these n's together because this one has a coefficient attached to it. It's being multiplied, and this one also has a coefficient, and they're grouped together. You just can't mix them yet. But if you can spread them out using the distributive property, then it's going to look more like this, and you can mix them. When these parentheses are here, though, they're getting in your way. They're not letting you do it. So in order to do that, it would be 4 times n plus 4 times 6 is 24. And then here, this is a little tricky because you're subtracting a group of n plus 6. That's actually, you want to distribute in what's outside the parentheses and what's outside these parentheses is a negative 1. So you also want to distribute this negative 1 in like so. So I could change that to plus a negative 1 like that. negative 1 times n plus 6. So that would be negative 1 times n is going to be our negative n, and the negative 1 times 6 is a negative 6. So it would be 4n plus 24 minus n minus 6. And again, we will color code this so you can see which ones are like terms. This one, and then this one, and this one. And so 4n minus n equals 3n, and 24 minus 6 equals 18. And so that's an example of a correct answer right there. Now there's another way to think of it too, though, which is probably a little easier. So I'm just going to get rid of all these symbols here. Essentially what we have here is 4 groups of n plus 6 minus 1 group of n plus 6, which is going to leave us with 4 minus 1. These are like terms. 4 groups of n plus 6 minus 1 group of n plus 6 is going to equal 3 groups of n plus 6. And look at that. That is our original question, 3 times n plus 6. So you have 4 groups of n plus 6. You take away 1 group of n plus 6, and you're left with 3 groups of n plus 6. And so that would also be an answer. Again, that's another way to show it. And then the last one, 4 groups of n plus 6 minus 1 group of n minus 6. Well, that's not going to get us to 3 groups of n plus 6, because as you can see, you're not taking away one of these groups, so you won't be left with the 3 times n plus 6 as you want. Also, this negative 1 would distribute, so it would be minus n plus 6. Could be negative 1 times negative 6, so you'd end up with 3n plus 30 if you did that. All right, and our final questions, we'll look at those later.